I'll go first. Follow my lead. How? No. Oh. What a truly bold attack. Could that be the legendary Goblin Club? Its destructive power is indeed worthy of its reputation. Launching such firepower without prior scouting shows just how confident he is in his spiritual power. No. It seems he is cautious about his spiritual power, and thus used the basic form of the Goblin Club rather than its true form. It's not exactly my job to provide commentary, but the free transformation of shape and texture. To the opponent, this might seem the most frustrating aspect, but the real inequality lies elsewhere. Volume and mass relative to volume. Even with just monster level or lesser spiritual power, one can create a physical force that is difficult for opponents of the same level to handle. This is why even the old goblins, despite their shortcomings, managed to hold their own. Just mastering the basic usage of the club could make it impossible for those below the spiritual level of the wielder to handle. Not to mention, the goblin who has already mastered its crown and true form. As long as his stamina doesn't run out, he can unleash attacks without worry. Of course, even so, it would be meaningless with just that. Your reaction's not bad. That level of attack would have been sufficient to defeat any weaklings I encountered in the preliminary rounds. Of course. That was only in the preliminary rounds. The immediate use of weapon desummoning and evasion. The first attack was carefully adjusted to make him think that it was possible to defend or counterattack. Had he tried to defend or counterattack, he would have been hit directly by the second attack. Interesting. But a bit disappointing. If you used a blade, it would have been quite tasty. What on earth is this person? His attack itself is not that significant. What's hard to understand is his seemingly unreasonable durability. The first attack, fine, but my second attack was intended to finish him off with full force. I felt the impact clearly at my fingertips. Why, can he still move as if nothing happened? Kong Haesung and Choi Si-woo. The intense one-on-one combat between the two participants continues. Indeed, it is a fierce battle worthy of the main event's prestige and level. But why is Kim Yushin's presence missing for some time now? And Murik seems to be waiting at a distance rather than intervening in their battle. It's already, almost like the outcome is decided. Goblins, humans, and starfish, both sides likely have the same approach to this fight. In a tournament format with 8 groups participating, where the finals are held on the same day with selected strong contenders, one single victory means nothing. No matter how many strong opponents are defeated, if there's no remaining strength, only a hollow defeat awaits. Moreover, having gone through yesterday's preliminary rounds, all participants are likely acutely aware of this. However, in a spirit-level fight, even with differences in strength and technique, it inevitably becomes a long battle. A decisive blow to end the opponent efficiently and a scouting phase to achieve that. Identify the opponent's weakness before they identify yours, and strike through that gap to win. Although Choi Si-woo's previous attack looked flashy, it lacked substance. That exaggerated flashiness was merely a distraction to buy time for Kim Yushin to conceal himself. Embarrassingly enough, even I, for a moment, lost sight and missed seeing Kim Yushin disappear. It's needless to say for those directly involved. That's why this awkward situation was created. The analysis by Baekgyo was accurate. Murek's decision not to intervene directly in his sister's fight, or rather, the reason Murek can't intervene is because of his awareness of the concealed Yushin. Yushin, who's hidden somewhere in the arena, aims to attack if any gap appears. They have already deduced that the two opponents have divided roles according to their strengths, and Choi Si-woo's role is clearly to draw their attention. Therefore, while paying attention to finding the hidden Yushin, they aim to control the fight with the sister without revealing any gaps. Their plan is to finish Si-woo quickly and create a 2:1 situation with the hidden Yushin. But it's a shame. It doesn't seem like you went all out. If you had been a bit more daring, this would have been over already. Simply using strength alone isn't enough to defeat a goblin like Choi Si-woo. Well, it's a relief for me. A strong and fast regenerating body is a strong advantage, but it seems like a complete disadvantage on your end. Damn it. What is this? Sister is unable to dominate in a one-on-one despite my support. I've only heard about goblins being strong and attacking in bizarre ways. There was no mention of them being resilient like a curled-up turtle. And that human is definitely nearby. An almost imperceptible presence and faint killing intent, he's clearly letting it slip intentionally. Is this really the right thing to be doing here? When you think about it, they're just human-level threats. If they're just tricksters with no real substance, is this level of vigilance necessary? Most of the combined power of the two is focused on that half-goblin. If the answer was to unite and finish him as quickly as possible, then we've been making the worst blunders so far. The most important mindset in a decisive battle is undoubtedly faith. Even when cornered by a strong opponent, believing in one's own skill and plan greatly increases the chance of victory. However, when there are allies, the amount of faith needed doubles, just like the increase in power. Before it's too late. I need to support my sister now. I don't care what the human does. I'm an invincible starfish. I can easily withstand any pathetic attacks. You really fell for this? Final judgment or swift kill? Though it might have seemed like a momentary mental lapse. I hope you didn't just rely solely on your species being tough. I'm not a fool, and there's no way a starfish can be cut down so simply. Even though I kept giving hints with my killing intent for you to stay alert, you somehow managed to throw it all away. Anyway. Choi Si-woo, you're probably going to brag about making me follow your orders, don't you? Just relax and lie down comfortably. You don't have to try so hard, it'll get better if you stay still. Well, you probably can't even hear me right now. It wasn't out of any special mercy. Final slash for Yushin, it was a year ago. One of the divine techniques he learned in the battle with Xiao Wei. Using the blade of the energy formed at his fingertips. He performed a technique that passed through the gaps between the skin, muscle, bones, and organs without cutting them. But honestly speaking, that's a pretty useless skill. Pardon? I'm talking about final slash. You said you know how to use it, right? Just so there's no misunderstanding, I'm not nitpicking. Regardless of your age, it's impressive that you alone figured it out, when no one around you can. Well, yeah. I do have some talent too, but it would have been much better if it had been another divine technique. But you probably realized after using it, right? When fighting a monster, it's quite tricky to slice them cleanly. In fact, you didn't even manage to defeat the opponent you successfully performed final slash on, right? What? How did you? It's obvious even without seeing. You probably performed final slash properly, but it didn't deliver as much of a blow as you thought, right? If your opponent was strong enough to awaken during battle, they must have been a powerful monster. That's the subtle and tricky part of final slash. Monsters of a certain level will just heal even if they're sliced. On the other hand, weaker monsters can be defeated without using final slash in the first place. Of course, it's better to know than not, as it can still give a strong one hit even if it doesn't do much damage. Oh, that's impressive. But considering the difficulty in the title of Divine Technique, it's a bit underwhelming. It's like drawing an SSS-ranked character, only to find out it's the weakest one. And when you think about it, the fact that the cut is clean doesn't actually help much, does it? For a being with regenerative powers, a cleaner wound is actually more convenient. In fact, against monsters, the dirtier and rougher the injury, the better. And if you can imbue some useful poison or curse, even better. I know, this sounds a bit too practical for something an immortal would say. But isn't that how it goes? Even if it's called monster hunting or whatever, in essence, it's just hunting another species for survival. How long have you been out here? Just before sunrise. Day 30. Looking at you with the fishing rod now, it seems you've got most of the essentials down. Caught any fish yet? It's not easy. Besides, this isn't exactly a great spot. Excuses. If you just started fishing at dawn today, it would be impossible to complete all the tasks by the end of the day. Well, honestly, just managing to craft a hook with Gengi in 30 days is still unbelievable that no one would buy it if you told them. Like I said, it's really not easy. Catching 5 different kinds, that is. It felt weird to me too, you know. You didn't say, catch a certain number of fish. Why did you specifically say, catch different kinds? But when I came out at dawn and started making the hook and bait, I finally realized what the final challenge is. Making the hook wasn't too hard once I got the hang of it. Even though it's not perfect, the texture turned out somewhat similar. But that alone isn't enough, is it? Compared to a real worm, it lacks flavor, scent, and even movement. It's just a fake that looks similar. Even a fish wouldn't fall for this kind of bait, right? No, can I even make bait that works? Even as an immortal, how can you replicate the taste and scent of living creatures with deception? So, the only thing left that I could realistically recreate was just one. Oh, got one. Let me ask you honestly, Master. How long did you really think it would take for me to reach this level? Let's not pretend you thought it would take only a month. Actually, I'm more curious, how many months did it take you? Moving Gengi. Well, I got the hang of it in about a day, no, half a day, but still. You cheeky brat. It's suspicious, though. Someone who can do that but still messes up a half-boiled egg for over a month. So, are you finally starting to get it? What this has to do with the final slash? Yes. I understand it very clearly now. The final slash's goal that cut Murik was not to leave a wound, but to leave something else behind. Gangi, capable of mimicking a swimming fish even after being separated from the body. Yushin left that inside Murik's body. It became a living poison, which tore through and destroyed Murik's spinal nerves. There was no external wound, but even with the regenerative power of a spirit-class demon, it was impossible to overcome the internal devastation. The technique was so powerful that it would feel like being struck by a deadly curse called sudden death. In the olden days, immortals and demons alike called this technique. Hey, Choi Si-woo. At least I did my part, alright? Sudden death strike. If it's too hard for you to handle alone, just fall back and conserve your strength. I'll show you how it's done. What my friend said, he's not a bad guy. He just tends to get carried away and overdoes it with his words. Honestly, I think our strategy just worked out better. It's not that you guys were weak or anything. But since things have tipped in our favor, I think if you forfeit here, we can end this without further harm to either side. Of course, if you refuse, there's no other choice, but I'm not as sophisticated as my friend. I don't know any peaceful way to subdue a strong yokai like you. I told you. I'm not that sophisticated. The first match of the main tournament has ended. The victors, Choi Si-woo and Kim Yushin. Loss of stamina and energy, extremely minimal. What, was that just now? What happened? The opponent attacked. But Si-woo didn't move until just before the attack landed. So, naturally, I thought he would block it as usual. By the time I heard the sound, his fist was already extended forward. It was as if the middle part of the video had been edited. Even though I had relaxed a little, I wasn't careless at all. His speed surpassed even my eye strength, which I had trained over the past year, to the point where he subdued a spirit-level monster in one blow. When did he learn such a technique? You two are really amazing. Personally, I thought your opponents were at least one level above you since they were contenders for the championship, but your martial prowess was so great that it made my limited view feel shameful. Especially the concealment technique that completely hid your presence until the very last moment. When you finally revealed yourselves, the audience was in awe. Ah, well. But is there a problem or something? I'm not supposed to give a victory speech or anything, right? A victory speech, that's a good idea. We should consider that from the second round onwards. But there is another reason why I stepped on the stage. Because you haven't yet fulfilled the conditions for your victory. Of course, to anyone watching, your victory is obvious. But that's just their subjective opinion. Depending on how you interpret it, you could say, it's not decided yet. It may seem like they're in a state of incapacity, but there's no direct damage to their energy orbs. Moreover, the depth of their injuries is such that, at a spirit-level monster's strength, they should recover without any issues. More importantly, despite having ample opportunity to do so, they haven't admitted defeat. They could still declare it now, but since they haven't, it's not over yet, and the right to finish this lies with you. Is this one of those things? Honestly, from my point of view, it's already over since we won. But the standards of the monsters are different. The right to devour the one you defeated. That's why, besides surrender, defeat means death, or being devoured by the victor. Even Si-woo gathered up the orbs during the preliminaries and devoured them, and if his power just now was due to that, from the monster's perspective, devouring is a completely natural thing. Hey, listen. I guess there's no choice. We'll just have to finish this for sure. Hey, hey. Gotcha. What are you doing right now? We can't just wait for these people to wake up, can we? If we did, we'd have to fight again. In that case, we'll just have to use another disqualification method. Hey, what exactly is the out-of-bounds range? The out-of-bounds zone starts from the flat ground where the floor structure ends. Thank you. You heard that, right? Yushin, you too, move that person outside the boundary. There's no guarantee that your technique will last forever, right? Yeah, right. I'm exhausted, leaving aside my energy and stamina, I feel incredibly tired, maybe from the tension. Why did you do that? To the monsters we defeated. You know the deal, right? The Dragon Palace basically gave us permission to devour them. Why didn't you eat them? Well, because you don't like it. Don't joke around, seriously. Those two, they were the strongest opponents you've faced so far. It's not like you're suddenly uncomfortable with the idea of killing and devouring them. Well, they might be more useful. Useful? If they were on the side of the rebellion happening today, they wouldn't have fought so desperately in a competition that was about to be overthrown anyway. They don't know what's going to happen. So later, when things go down, even if they don't join our side, they could still be useful as variables. Is this water? Since they belong to the monsters of the Korean peninsula, they won't side with the dark spirits. And besides, after eating a few energy orbs yesterday, I realized, it is water. Eating them doesn't immediately give me something good. As strong as the contained energy is, I also need time to digest it. Neither of their energy levels are something I can digest right away today. Rather than greedily burdening my body, I thought it would be better to leave myself with some more usable options. I see, now that he explained it, it sounds more like a rational choice. If I were him, I'd probably make the same decision. But for him to basically say, I spared them to use them. The fact that this is coming naturally from his mouth, feels a little strange. It could just be my feeling, but I know it might be rude to suddenly approach you like this, but, my name is Bayan, and I am one of the generals who command the Gold Guard of the Dragon Palace. After witnessing your incredible display in the match earlier, as a warrior, I couldn't contain my excitement, which is why I dared to come here so boldly. I have no other intentions, I simply brought some good alcohol and hope to have a conversation with you, heroes from the land. If you're uncomfortable with this, I will leave immediately. I'm not particularly uncomfortable with it. It's just that we were just getting bored ourselves. If we can get to know someone from the Dragon Palace, we'd be grateful. Then, with no further ado, please feel free to sit. You've come to befriend us with good intentions, so there's no need to be tense. Is this alcohol? The aroma is amazing, even just being near the bottle. Well, this is more like the usual Choi Siwoo. You recognize it, huh? This is Hidoju, sea grape liquor, a family recipe passed down for generations. I couldn't come to meet you too empty-handed. Would it be alright if I poured you a drink? Oh, no. I'm not very good with alcohol, and I've been drinking a lot recently. Nice to meet you. I'm really glad to meet you. Yes, well. In a situation where things could explode any minute, what are we even doing? This liquor. What is this? It's really good. Really? I'm glad. I was worried it wouldn't suit the taste of people from the land. I can't believe it. I knew humans grow fast, but it's hard to believe you're only 17 this year. I'm not that impressive, honestly. Though Yushin might be, I was just a bit lucky, now that I think of it, how old are you, Bayan? When you first introduced yourself, you said you are a commander, but you look quite young. You seem to have risen through the ranks really quickly. Oh, this year. I will be 100. You say that, yet you keep talking after just one drink. By the way, it seems like time has passed. Even if we assume that Siwoo and my match ended quickly, by now, the third match should be underway. So, it's about time. Wait a minute, isn't a position right below the generals really amazing? Haha, well, just based on the title alone, yes, but it wasn't a position I earned purely on my own merit. I'm just a beneficiary of a generational shift. A generational shift. Ah, the person who held my position before me was appointed at the time of the current Dragon King's ascension. That was hundreds of years ago. When His Majesty ascended the throne, he announced widespread reforms. Starting with stopping the tribute we used to demand from humans on land, he changed many of the policies of the Dragon Palace, and placed the core government positions into the hands of those in his peer group who shared his vision. But His Majesty is a special case among the dragon race. He still retains his full power and abilities from his prime, however, the officials who were his peers can no longer keep pace with him. In recent years, they have started to retire, and younger officials like us are beginning to take their places. I see, that must be a lot of pressure for you. To fix what the previous generations have done, yes, we have the duty to restore the Dragon Palace from the mess those damned old fools left behind. Huh. Ah. I said something inappropriate without realizing it. But what I said is surely the sentiment of the wise individuals in the Dragon Palace. At this time of great upheaval in the world, there are many layers of mistakes we need to shed. Still, it's a relief. All of that frustration ends today. Wait a moment. I'm sorry to say this, Siwoo, but today's martial arts competition, it's going to be erased. Everything the current Dragon King has done, all of it, will disappear without a trace. Why Yushin? What are you saying? Why all of a sudden? Such a shame. Though it was poisoned, that liquor was still the pride of my family. It was far too good for humans. Well, if you think about it as the price for your current suffering, it's not quite fair, but it does make some sense. But you're surprisingly calm. I expected you would have jumped at me immediately. You must have some sort of antidote. You're planning to use it as leverage, to make demands. Otherwise, since there's one person who hasn't been poisoned, there's no way you'd be this composed. As expected, you're quite sharp. Well, the only reason I'm calm is because I'm confident I can subdue you by myself. From your perspective, this must be very sudden, but the current Dragon King will step down from the throne today. We'll apologize to the other competitors for canceling the tournament and compensate them with an appropriate penalty fee. But for humans, there's an exception. Even if the current Dragon King let you off, you still have to pay the price for stepping foot into the Dragon Palace without knowing your place. But fortunately for you, Siwoo, there's someone who thinks highly of you. That person holds you in very high regard. The new Dragon King expects you, Siwoo, to stand by his side and use your goblin powers for the sake of the Dragon Palace. If you go to the new Dragon King and pledge your loyalty, I will prepare the antidote for the human. Prepare. But, as you can see, my friend needs help immediately. Well. I assumed you would drink as well, so the poison isn't that strong. But it seems human bodies are even weaker than I thought. Even low-grade yokai can last a day, at least. In any case, I haven't prepared the antidote yet. If you're that worried, you'll just have to follow me as quickly as possible. Understand? I'll do whatever you say, just, please save my friend. Of course, Siwoo. Given how cooperative you're being, I'll hurry as well. That's a relief. I didn't think things would go this smoothly. Honestly, I'm a little disappointed. I had hoped, depending on the situation, to face off against you, Siwoo, but to think you'd throw away your pride and dignity for a mere human. Follow me. Can I at least ask who I'm pledging my loyalty to? I don't think you're in a position to ask questions, but fine. The Crown Prince, who is currently imprisoned, will soon overthrow his father and ascend to the throne. For now, you'll be meeting General John, the top of the Grand Generals, so be careful with your words and actions. He fell for it. Celestial energy secret art, deception. Is he naive, or just dumb? Maybe both. You came to us so openly and offered food, did you really think we'd fall for it, like some clueless fools? By the way, Choi Siwoo. I've thought this since middle school, but your harmless loser act is almost terrifyingly good. Honestly, I thought it was just because of your plump appearance, but I didn't expect that even here, your fake niceness would work. Even though I know you're hiding something, before I know it, I'm lowering my guard. It's almost like a superpower. Even though the other side is recruiting you first, you still manage to infiltrate and leak critical information in no time. Anyway, now that we've figured out the mastermind, they'll probably ignore me for a while, thinking I'm not a threat. Now, how should I cause a scene? The first round of the finals is already heading into its last match. Should I say that every match has exceeded my expectations? As the daughter of a warrior family, I have watched a few tournaments up until now, but this is the first time I've seen such a high-level competition. Match 2 winners, Goyu and Salmi. Isn't that overdoing it? Luckily, nothing serious happened, but you could have been seriously injured. You could have just left the front to me and supported from the back. I know. But considering the situation, it's better to save your strength than mine, isn't it? And if I push myself to the limit, maybe, just maybe, I can awaken even a little. I could see this coming since you charged in recklessly. Father would be very proud if he saw this. The next successor of the family, being humiliated in front of the high-ranking officials of the Dragon Palace. So please, fix that habit. It's because you always rush in without any probing or control that you end up in situations like this. Yeah. But wasn't it fun though? The more I think about it, the more I realize I'm glad I came here, right? Just look at Siwoo's fights, they're all amazing. I knew this was going to happen. What's the use of being calm and sensible in daily life? That's not an act, but when the crucial battle comes, it's like your mental age regresses by 10 years, and you just charge ahead recklessly. If only you used at least half of your brain in those moments, instead, you leave everything to your instincts and intuition. Maybe it's because of the blood, and that's probably why he was chosen as the next head. By the way, you seem to be in good condition too, sis. You didn't look so well before we came here, maybe your mood improved and it's reflected in your abilities? Could it be because you got Reiju back and saw Siwoo again? What nonsense are you talking about? You think just because I'm in a bad mood, it affects my magic that much? How pathetic do you think I am as a mage? I told you already. The land of the Korean peninsula just doesn't suit me. For people like us, Shikigami summoners, the place we're in is the most important thing. If the natural energy of the place doesn't match, it's like a saltwater fish trying to swim in freshwater. Is it that bad? I didn't think it was that bad. There's a lot of energy here. It's not a matter of good or bad, it's a matter of compatibility. You hate shrimp, even though everyone else loves them, right? Anyway, do something about that pitiful display. Even I feel sorry just watching it. Oh, definitely. Winners, Yoshihiro and Yuzuru. And now, we're at the last match of the first round. Judging by their track record alone, they surpassed the 12 contestants so far. First, we have Chubby, a direct descendant of the great sage, equal to heaven, who displayed overwhelming dominance in the preliminaries. Except for a single forfeit loss, she settled every match in a single move, a true heir of a prestigious family. Overcoming their weak lineage, they defeated powerful opponents to stand here. Up next we have the dear spirit sisters of the Korean peninsula, Yujong and Yuk. It's a shame. It would have been better if we didn't have to meet here and now. From what I've seen so far, *T. Why is it always like this? Why do I always have to run into such delicious-looking opponents when I can't eat them? Should I just throw all caution to the wind and just go for it, like last time? What is this? Well, I get what Qian's thinking. And I even agree to some extent. But still, we've all been in Bai Hyung's debt since we were born. All of us. So, I think it's only right to help him out when he asks. As long as it's something we can tolerate, that is. There's no other way to think about it. Unless my sense of energy completely broke overnight, those two are undoubtedly shadow demons. The one on the right, if I'm not mistaken, is the cursed beast I spoke of. Is it greed? It's almost identical to the malicious energy I sensed from the traces of the previous generation's greed I investigated before coming here. And the other one, of course, I've never felt anything like its energy before. Compared to greed, it's more unpleasant and sticky. I don't know what kind of magic it holds, but, if I let myself get hit, it'll be the end. This is getting interesting. Two shadow demons, it's a perfect test to see if I'm worthy of becoming the king of conquerors. I forfeit. Am I doing this right? Anyway, we forfeit. What is going on here? Oh. But you've made it all the way to the finals, and now, you're forfeiting before the match even starts. Why on earth? Haha, I'm sorry to disappoint you. But as you said in the introduction earlier, we're not from any particularly good lineage, so we don't overestimate our abilities. We came here more for the experience than to win. We were planning to at least finish strong, but what can we do? We ran into something like that at the very start. So, we forfeit. It's a bit of a shame, but what can we do? Just getting this far already fulfilled our goal. Up until this moment, Chubby had considered almost every possibility she could. And the most reasonable goal for the shadow demons is still the assassination of the Dragon King. Throughout history, across all times and places, people say that every throne is built on the edge of a rebel's blade, but that doesn't hold true for the Dragon Palace. As Chubby pointed out to Siwu the day before, the Dragon King's individual power is on another level. No matter how many forces or armies one can gather, it's impossible to challenge an absolute being like him. Their only chance would be the reward given to the winner of the martial arts tournament. The Dragon King personally congratulates the winners and leads them to the treasure vault of the Dragon Palace, where they are allowed to choose an item. It's the one moment where they can get close to the Dragon King without arousing suspicion or raising alarms. Even so, a simple ambush would never be enough to harm the Dragon King. But with the twisted magic of the shadow demons, they might be able to overcome the power gap. Yet they gave up that opportunity themselves. What could they possibly gain by doing that? Perhaps this moment is the last chance. Even if it means making an enemy of the Dragon Palace, Chubby realized that she needed to eliminate the shadow demons immediately. Well, although I've forfeited, I do feel sorry for those who were watching. Everyone must have had high expectations. Instead of an entertaining spectacle, they ended up with a pitiful and draining outcome. So, as a way of apology, I was thinking of sharing an interesting story. Let's see. I'm not sure how loudly I should say this. Ladies and gentlemen, did you know? Our current emperor, hailed as the greatest sovereign in the history of the East Sea, has had 2 empresses thus far. The first one is the biological mother of His Highness, the Crown Prince, who is currently imprisoned. Wait, hold on a second. What is this all of a sudden? Shoo. She's in the middle of talking, interrupting isn't polite, is it? The first empress came from the most prestigious family in the Dragon Palace of the East Sea. She provided great support for His Majesty's ascension to the throne. And it said that their marriage was harmonious as well. It seemed only natural for them to spend a lifetime together until death, but that didn't happen. His Majesty the Dragon King abandoned his partner. The cause was that the Empress simply tried to exercise her right, a very natural one at that. What are you even talking about? This is nonsense. What are the inner guards doing? Arrest that vile person immediately. Well, although she was the Empress, direct interference in politics was not permissible, but as one of His Majesty's advisors, the Empress merely offered sound counsel. We saw 2 phantom-like figures, acting out of nowhere. Her body froze, unable to react or even think. But it wasn't because of any failure on Xiaoyi's part. The situation had already slipped completely out of her control. His Majesty must have thought that even such counsel overstepped her bounds. And so, Xiaoyi didn't need to act, nor did she have the right to do so. I may not be the most tolerant person, but after doing this job for a few hundred years, you become indifferent to most rumors. Kings, and those in high positions tend to deal with such things. The noise from below is no different from insects flocking to left-out food. It's annoying, sure, but unavoidable. It's a law of nature you have to accept. Powerful sorcery, vast reserves of magical energy, meticulously honed techniques. There is an opponent against whom none of these things hold any meaning. In fact, using the word opponent may be a stretch. No matter how strong an individual may be, fighting against the laws of nature is not even a contest. Just as ants can't properly look up at humans, those beneath cannot fathom such beings. For yokai, they can only collectively refer to them in one word. But, when an insect crawls into your bed and bites your flesh, that's a slightly different matter. No other word compares to it. No matter what you think in your head, your hand reflexively strikes to kill. So, who are you? On my daughter's birthday, who dared to open the window of my home and let you inside? I won't give you much time. But if you answer, I won't take your life. It's not the insect's fault for biting without knowing their place. Just as I heard, no, even more so. Of course, a rebellion would simply never succeed. The Dragon King is an entity beyond that of any mere yokai. Even outside of the water, no one can match him. In the East Sea, he is the absolute ruler, literally. No matter how strong or huge their numbers are, they must fight against the master of that world. I've heard he's much stronger than you, Bai Hyung. Is there anything Qian or I can do about that? We'll have to provoke his ire, of course. Hit the Dragon King where it hurts the most, the one sensitive topic he never wants to hear about. We'll say it, make him come to us. Don't worry. Sure, if the Dragon King wanted to, you would be killed instantly. But he won't do that. After all, he's kind-hearted, and he's fully aware of just how overwhelmingly powerful he is. It's like how humans don't immediately squash ants. You wouldn't call that reckless or foolish, right? Even if the ant tries something, he'll just respond nonchalantly, like do whatever you want. That's when Eileen will use this. To put it grandly, it's a weapon that can bring down a god, or, more modestly, it's a venomous stinger that I can attach to you, Eileen, the ant. I don't have the skill to use it myself. But with Eileen's abilities, it's more than possible. The look on his face when the anti-dragon god weapon, which he himself gave to humans, strangles his own life. No one, except the Dragon King, knew what the demon who chose his own death had brought out, and what the melody being played with it meant. In this world, even those who claim to know the Dragon King best, or those who hired shadow demons to dethrone the Dragon King, or those watching the situation unfold right in front of them, or even the most talented among those watching, no one understood. It's an old story. Over 1,000 years old, a story almost forgotten by not only humans, but also demons. At that time, the Dragon King, the former Dragon King, had no clear successor. There were 2 heirs to inherit the throne, but was it difficult to determine superiority? Or was there another reason? The Dragon King couldn't decide on a crown prince for a long time. Unfortunately, in that state, the Dragon King fell ill. He could no longer move, and he was bedridden, unable to even maintain a clear mind. Somehow, it's a rather common story, so, did the 2 heirs kill each other over the throne? And that weapon was used for it? No. Unfortunately, it seems that didn't happen. The younger brother, that is, the current Dragon King, had no desire for the throne. So the younger brother decided to leave the sea for a while. Even though he had no desire for the throne, the atmosphere would undoubtedly be strange with 2 candidates for succession. By leaving, he intended to naturally diminish his presence so that his older brother could reign as the crown prince. Besides, there was a good excuse to naturally leave the Dragon Palace at that time. Thus, the younger brother left the sea for quite a long time. What is that? Is he an idiot? Making something like that would obviously come back and bite him on the ass later on. But, of course, there were conditions. It will only be used when the Dragon Palace brings harm to the land first, so in any other situation, it will be thoroughly sealed. Of course, it wasn't just empty words. The first version of the flute that tames the 10,000 waves was specialized purely for defense and counterattack. But no matter how I think about it, it's self-inflicted. It wasn't me who never intended to seal it in the first place, nor the one who modified it like this. It has been called many names throughout the history of the West. A monster with the head of a goat or a ram, with characteristics of both male and female. Leading humans to the abyss of lust and pleasure. Satyr or Baphomet. And Asmodeus. That's probably the most famous name this gloomy being ever had. The one who understood the situation fastest and acted accordingly was the descendant of the Monkey King. Though I don't know exactly what that flute is, it was clear its effects were limited to the Dragon King. And that playing it requires full concentration. If the attacker is unaware of its surroundings, then in an instant, Godsmithing wind. Even it's just one thread of it, its impact resistance managed to withstand even a direct hit from the Godsmithing wind. Even though its head was blown off, it can still move, which means its human form is nothing but a shell. Hungry. Hungry, hungry, very hungry, I'm hungry, hungry. If both sides are yokai who have stepped into the spiritual level, the outcome of the battle is not determined by the amount of power, including spiritual energy. Yes, from a human perspective, this is how it can be illustrated. A trained soldier with a dagger and a child with a fully loaded assault rifle. If they were to face each other on the battlefield, which side do you think has a higher chance of winning? Well, I don't know much about guns, but let's assume there are no obstacles between them, something like that. Time, place, distance, individual physical characteristics, and mindset. The outcome can change depending on those various factors. Neither side can be certain of the result. It's the same with sorcery and spiritual power. As long as you have the ability to surely kill the opponent upon hitting them, other variables become more important than the power itself. No matter how strong your sorcery is, if you don't know how to handle it well or aren't skilled, its power will be greatly reduced. On the contrary, if you understand the opponent's abilities, as long as the situation allows, you can respond accordingly. Moreover, it's possible to find openings with your own sorcery, as long as there is minimal required power, as mentioned earlier. Indeed, now that you've explained it, I understand clearly. Though, using firearms as an example was quite unexpected, but the reason you're telling me all this is, because in your current state, you're not much different from that child. I don't know you well, nor have I seen you fight properly. If we tie our two encounters together, we've only met twice in a few days. However, in those few days, you've grown to the point where you could be considered a completely different being. Of course, that growth itself is praiseworthy. Your bloodline's potential, a bit of luck in experiences, but above all, it would have been impossible without your own will. But you've already felt the backlash from it, haven't you? Even though you moved with your own judgment and will, when you look back, it feels like those actions were taken by someone else. At least once in the battles you've experienced it, right? Simply having heightened emotions or aggression isn't a big problem. If you used magic that you had never learned or even known about as if possessed by something, that's evidence that you are starting to be consumed by your own power. Especially someone like you, a yokai with a powerful bloodline but no elders to guide you, this is a symptom you must be more wary of more than anything. Not just wielding a lot of spiritual energy, but recklessly using power you can't even grasp or control. That's how yokai become possessed by their demonic nature and lose their reason, turning into a demonic monster. So, stop trying to increase your power for a while. Even the spiritual orbs you swallowed today are too much for you. Since it's not like I can have you spit them back out, I'll help you digest them for now. If you had a wise adult to protect you, they would have done everything in their power to stop you. And something to keep in mind, try to avoid the fighting style of overpowering the opponent with force. Otherwise, you'll keep hitting limits in each battle, forcing yourself until you get consumed. At your current level, what you already have is enough to take on opponents a few steps above you. Rather than looking for stronger weapons, it would be better to find ways to use the weapon in your hand more skillfully and effectively. I've gone on a bit of a tangent, but what I wanted to tell you is what I know about the shadow demons. I don't know if the one at the Dragon Palace is a shadow demon, but if it is, I know how to deal with it. The best way would be for me to capture it directly, but if it's not you, Miss Shelby, but me that encounters it, you're telling me to use the strategy you mentioned to capture it, right? Yes. Even if I encounter it first, depending on the situation, I might lose. So this is not just a reckless rebellion. Wow, as expected of the granddaughter of the great sage, equal to heaven. Even in this situation, you don't seem intimidated at all. On a personal level, I find that quite appealing. But unfortunately, you're not a target for recruitment. You see it that way too, right? Your grandfather's atrocities at the Dragon Palace 1,000 years ago were deserving of death 100 times over. But don't worry too much. I have no intention of making you bear all the responsibility. I'll let you live, but I'll thoroughly destroy you and send you back to MANHWA, beyond repair. That's the punishment for you, ignorant monkey bastards. What was that just now? The sound alone suggests it's quite far away. But for the tremor to reach here, something must have happened. This damn earthworm, how dare you take your eyes off me? Ah. I apologize. Something caught my attention for a moment. I didn't expect you to withstand that. Well then, let's continue. A few minutes ago, we've come all the way here, but we haven't encountered a single person working inside the palace.